Sarah sat alone in the dimly lit office, her gaze fixated on the clock. It was past midnight, and she was the only one left in the building. As the receptionist, it was her duty to stay behind and answer any late-night calls. But tonight, the silence that enveloped the workplace was suffocating. The building itself had an eerie aura. Its faded walls whispered tales of past employees and their unfulfilled dreams. Sarah had heard rumors of strange occurrences during the night shift, but she had always dismissed them as mere superstitions. However, as the minutes ticked by, her skepticism began to waver. Suddenly, the ringing of the phone jolted her out of her thoughts. Startled, she picked it up, her voice trembling. "Hello?" There was only static on the other end of the line. Sarah's heart raced as she tried to make sense of the noise. Just as she was about to hang up, a voice emerged from the static, barely audible, like a ghostly whisper. "Sarah, stay, alone." Cold chills ran down Sarah's spine, and she dropped the phone in panic. The room felt colder, and a deep sense of foreboding settled in her chest. She tried to shake off the fear, attributing the call to a prank or a glitch in the system. However, as she looked around, she noticed something strange, a flickering light at the end of the corridor. Curiosity mixed with apprehension, Sarah cautiously approached the flickering light. The hallway seemed unnaturally long, the walls closing in on her. Each step echoed loudly in the deserted building, amplifying her anxiety. As she reached the end of the corridor, Sarah's eyes widened in terror. The flickering light was coming from an old storage room, a place that hadn't been used in years. The door creaked open on its own, revealing an ominous darkness that seemed to swallow her courage. Summoning her inner resolve, Sarah stepped inside. The room was cluttered with dusty files and forgotten office equipment, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, causing her to jump. She desperately pulled at the handle, but it refused to budge. A sense of dread washed over Sarah as she realized she was trapped. Panic welled up inside her, threatening to consume her sanity. She searched for an escape route, her trembling hands brushing against an ancient-looking manuscript. Curiosity overpowered her fear, and she picked up the manuscript. As she flipped through its pages, the words seemed to leap out at her, as though written by a tormented soul. The tale unfolded before her eyes, a story of a deranged janitor who had committed heinous acts within these very walls. The manuscript spoke of the janitor's descent into madness, driven by the solitude of the night shift. It detailed his growing obsession with the building and his victims, former employees who had vanished without a trace. The tale ended abruptly, leaving Sarah with a chilling realization. She was not alone. A sudden movement caught her attention. She turned around to see the figure of a man, hunched over, his eyes gleaming with a maniacal glint. It was the janitor, the very embodiment of the story she had just read. Sarah's heart raced as she backed away, fear gripping her every limb. The janitor moved closer, his steps slow and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. She desperately searched for an escape route, her eyes landing on a small window high above. Summoning all her strength, Sarah sprinted towards the window, her heart pounding in her ears. With a final surge of adrenaline, she crashed through the glass, shards raining down around her. She landed outside, bruised and bleeding, but free from the clutches of the janitor. As she ran through the night, her mind replayed the horrors she had witnessed. Sarah realized that the stories she had dismissed as mere superstitions were true, and the darkness that lurked within the building would haunt her forever. From that night on, Sarah would never be able to erase the memories of being alone at work, the eerie phone call, the sinister manuscript, and the demented janitor who lurked in the shadows. The experience had forever changed her, leaving her with a permanent fear of the night shift and a lingering question: what other terrors lie hidden in the places we consider safe? Lucas stared at the clock on the wall. The hand seemed to move at a glacial pace, each tick echoing through the empty office. It was past midnight, and he was alone in the building, working on a critical project that had to be completed by morning. As an overworked accountant, late nights were nothing new to Lucas, but this night felt different. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting an eerie glow on the rows of cubicles. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning. Lucas's heart quickened and a sense of unease washed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he continued crunching numbers, his concentration was interrupted by a faint whisper. It was so soft that he doubted his own ears. Ignoring it as his imagination playing tricks on him, he immersed himself in his work once again. But the whisper persisted, growing louder and more distinct. Curiosity mingled with apprehension, Lucas left his desk and followed the sound. The whisper led him deeper into the office, to a deserted wing that hadn't been used in years. The walls were faded and peeling, and the air carried a musty scent of neglect. Suddenly the whisper transformed into a sinister laughter that sent shivers down Lucas's spine. He froze in his tracks, scanning the dimly lit corridor for the source of the sound. The laughter seemed to echo from the far end, where a solitary office stood. Summoning his courage, Lucas ventured closer, his heart pounding in his chest. The laughter grew louder, filling the hallway like a haunting melody. As he reached the door, it swung open of its own accord, revealing a pitch-black room. A cold gust of wind swept through the corridor, extinguishing the flickering lights. Lucas's breath caught in his throat as he stepped into the darkness, his fingers grazing the doorframe for guidance. The laughter echoed around him, bouncing off the walls, disorienting him. Straining his eyes, Lucas tried to make out shapes in the inky blackness. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes appeared before him, piercing the darkness like two fiery orbs. Panic seized him, and he stumbled backward, tripping over an unseen obstacle. The eyes drew closer, their fiery intensity intensifying. As they came into focus, Lucas saw the ghastly visage of a spectral figure, a woman with long, tangled hair and a tattered white dress. She floated towards him, her ethereal form radiating an otherworldly glow. Fear gripped Lucas, his mind racing for a means of escape. Desperation guided him to reach for his phone, hoping to find solace in its glow, but to his horror, it refused to turn on, as if drained of life. The realization dawned on him. He was completely cut off from the outside world. The ghostly woman advanced, her hollow eyes locked on Lucas's trembling form. Her voice, a chilling whisper, filled the void, sending shivers down his spine. "Leave this place before it claims you." Driven by terror, Lucas stumbled to his feet and dashed towards the exit. The spectral figure followed him, her ethereal form gliding effortlessly through the air. With each step, the laughter grew louder, filling his ears and threatening his sanity. He burst through the front door, gasping for air, the cold night wind offering a brief respite from the oppressive atmosphere inside. As he glanced back at the building, he saw the ghostly figure peering through the window, her eyes burning with fury. Lucas vowed never to return to that office. He discovered that the building had a dark history, a tragedy that claimed the lives of several employees, including the ghostly woman. Their tortured souls still lingered, forever trapped within the walls. From that night on, Lucas never spoke of the encounter, fearing that others would dismiss his story as the ramblings of a deranged mind. But deep down, he knew the truth, the horror that awaited those who dared to be alone in that abandoned office. And as he walked away, he could still hear the echoes of laughter in his ears, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within the forgotten corners of the workplace.